Tiny house. Tiny homes are a possible cheap solution for housing. However, buying a tiny home and being able to execute the plan to legally live in it is not as easy or as simple as it may appear to be, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. So I want to share with you my experience, my knowledge that I've learned over the course of about 8 years. Because about 8 years ago, I sold my standard condo and I started to look into alternate, cheaper ways to live, RVs, tiny homes, mobile homes, and they're all kind of looped in to that genre, okay? RVs, tiny homes, mobile homes, they're all non-conforming, non-standard forms of housing that tend to be cheaper than a regular single-family house or a regular condo. So let's get into the 3 things that you need to consider so that you can execute a plan to live in a cheaper way than the standard, if that's your goal. So the first thing that you need to understand when it comes to buying a tiny home is the land restrictions, the land use. What does that mean? It means every county, every state in America has local code requirements for housing. So the land is zoned in a certain manner. Residential, commercial, industrial, those are some of the standard zonings. And then within those standard zonings, there are other criteria. So for residential, you'll need to know, is it restricted land use or is it unrestricted? Unrestricted land use has more flexibility in what type of structure you can put on that land and how you can use it to live in or whatever your purpose is, obviously. And for here, we're talking about living in it. But unrestricted land, when it comes to land use, that's the first thing you need to research, where you're going to put this tiny home. Unrestricted land tends to be in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the country. Now, maybe it's only an hour and a half or an hour maybe away from a populated area or a town that you can get groceries and a lot of stores and amenities. But an hour commute back and forth or a 2-hour commute back and forth to town becomes a burden, not a blessing, unless you're a very certain specific type of person. So that's something you have to consider, okay, is where you're going to get this land, where's it going to be, how far is it away from a town, okay? Because most towns will not allow you to use land use for a tiny home, RV, or even mobile home. But here's the thing I want to share with you because you're getting discouraged. I want to share with you this thing. I got to get a different color marker, and you're going to see why in a minute. You're going to see. Stay with me. You have to be creative. Creative people find a solution within the structure of laws. You need to want to be code compliant. You need to want to follow the laws. You need to talk to the municipalities. And if you do that, it shows that you have good intentions, you're doing the work. And once you do that, that's the foundation of you follow the rules. There are creative ways to not necessarily get around the rules, okay, but there's exceptions to all the rules. But the exceptions for the rules are for the creative people and the people trying to follow the rules. So some creative ways to get around some of the land use, okay, is there are certain communities within a town that have exceptions. Like in a town that's populated, where there's no land use for a tiny home, mobile home, or RV, there's a community maybe that's a mobile home community, and their zone that you can live in an RV, you can live in a mobile home, and the community allows tiny homes. So you may be able even to live on the beach, okay? You own the land. These aren't a lot of communities, but there's some. You own the land, and you could put a tiny home. Why? Because that community specifically is zoned for RV living, mobile home living, and it may include tiny home living depending on the HOA documents. Okay? Or you could put the tiny home sometimes on an RV platform, on an RV steel frame. It's rated as an RV. I've seen this. And now that's the solution to get around some of the code compliant land use, but still being compliant. Creative people, I'll click the thumbs up. Creative people find solutions, but it takes effort. No one's going to hand you your best life. You got to do some work. Remember, what I found in life, when you're destitute, there's no shame in it, but you usually need a lot of help, and you may need to follow up with your social worker. Remember, and I say this with love, not with judgment, if you can't follow up with your social worker, then don't complain. Why? Because they're there trying to help you. And if you don't like the help they're giving you, then are you able to do it better yourself? If you are, you don't need them, but you're going to have to do the work. You can't get around the work of your life. So let's go to number 2. The number 2 thing you need to know when it comes to a tiny home. A lot of times, it's not just the cost of the tiny home, it's the cost to build it. Meaning there's a lot of tiny homes that are just sheds or built out like sheds. They're just a raw structure, and you have to do the electric, the plumbing, the sheetrock, the flooring, and that's cost. So if the structure only costs 10, 20, 30,000, you probably may have to put another 10, 20,000 into building it out, okay, to possibly make it code compliant or possibly make it the way you want, okay? There's a scripture that says, count the cost before you begin to build, okay? And that's what this means. People are not discouraged by cost. They're creative. And they do the numbers so they don't feel like someone's trying to rob them or trying to sell them something. When you do your own research and when you verified by other professionals, multiple people, because some people are trying to fraud you, but not everyone. When you do the work and you do the research, and part of that is step 2, count the cost, get multiple bids from multiple contractors, that's work. If you can't do it, someone's got to do it for you. And if someone's got to do it for you, you can't complain about how they're doing it. That's life. So, tiny homes, you got to have land use that you can use, and you got to count the cost of totally build it out how you need to. Step 3, we're going to wrap this up under 10 minutes. Click the thumbs up, share the video, subscribe. All free things. Step 3. Well, I found this very important in my own journey. In my own journey, this is very important. This says exit strategy. Exit strategy. What does that mean? When you buy a tiny home or an RV or a mobile home, these type of non-conforming, non-standard houses tend to go down in value, not up in value. And anytime you buy anything over $5,000, it's a big investment. And even if it did go up in value, if it was a regular house, you still need to understand your exit strategy. That's step 3. What does that mean? If you buy something today, and for some reason in a month, 2 months, in less than a year, short term is considered less than a year, but when it comes to housing, it's less than 5 years. If you buy something today and you want to sell it 6 months from now, short term, you're probably going to lose money. Why? Because if you really need to liquidate it, you need to sell it at a low amount. You need to get out of there. You need to exit, and you need to plan for that just in case, worst case. And what's that going to cost you? Are you going to lose 20%, 30% of what you bought the house for and everything you put into it? Can you afford to lose that? Same thing when you buy an RV. Same thing even when you buy a house. If you say, if I buy this house and I don't like the community, because you don't know the community till you live in it. You don't know what a 1 hour, 2 hour commute is going to be if you live in the middle of the woods until you live there. And every time you got to get something, you got to drive 2 hours there, 2 hours back. That'll wear on you. So, but that's okay. That's life. Life is meant to be lived, but you need to understand these things before you do it. So if you need to sell at a 20, 30, 40% loss, can you endure that financial loss and still move forward with your life? Or would it be debilitating? Okay, would it be paralyzing? Remember, most people have a storage unit because they can't let go of stuff. And remember, most people, they refuse to let go of anything unless they can make money. And that's not life. Life, you don't win every battle. Okay, you lose. And, you only win probably less than you lose, but you only win some, you lose a lot. Life is about falling when you get back up. So just count the cost. If you paid 10, 20, 50,000, 100,000 for something, after it was all said and done, after you figured out the land, you got to have the land, after you figured out the cost to build it, and then you needed to sell it and liquidate it in a quick time, and you were going to lose, if you spent 100,000, 50,000, 20,000, you're going to lose 10, 20, 50,000 on a deal. Would you still be able to move forward? So don't let these things scare you, but let them prepare you. Prepare. Everything in life, you got to prepare. I hope this video helped. If it did, click the thumbs up, subscribe, and share the video. Free. All free things you can do. And I thank you for watching.